On the move. We're live.
Live from Las Colinas, Texas.
And the show must go on.
Yes,
Why
sir.
wells fail. Lloyd, today, good to see you, brother.
Nice to see you, Mr. Steve.
We got a topic. It's called the myth of cheap success. What's that mean?
Ultimately, it's focusing on how much a process costs you or chemicals cost you. It's a commodity mindset, right? Hey, I'm gonna buy something that I'm going to measure it strictly on the cost of getting something completed versus how does it improve the performance of, in this case, my well. And it's funny. I'm just having an advisory board meeting today, and one of the things that one of my board advisors, he's like, ultimately, yeah, you're showing how you give a 40% uplift, but what you really are doing is you're providing a reduction in the cost per BOE by 40%. It's saying the same thing, but because you've made the investment in the refined process, you're reducing your cost per BOE because in this case, you're making, instead of 1,000 barrels a day, you're making 1,400 barrels a day. And your cost per barrel, the cost of this well, let's say it costs you an extra $50,000 to do it right. Your cost per contributed barrel for that $50,000 you've lowered over the life of that well dramatically the cost per barrel of oil equivalency. And so, you know, um, that's where this old saying, penny wise, pound foolish, fits right here in how why wells fail to be as productive as they should be for as long as they should be because we're cheap up front. And you and I had this conversation early on, Steve. You birth a well and it's handicapped from day one. You don't get a second opportunity to bring this well to life. It costs a lot of money to try to revive a well or to recomplete a well to gain, the payment of the barrels of hydrocarbon that that you missed. Well, where it's a lot more effective to invest the right process up front so you have a higher rate of return, in this case, a lower cost per barrel of equivalent oil equivalent as it's being produced back.
So that's that in the typical conversation of producing these wells or planning these and birthing them. That's a little bit of a hurdle to get past when you've done it this way all along to think about it different.
Well, and part of it is, I'll be quite frank, our customers at the executive level are thinking in what is my cost per barrel of oil equivalent, not in what is my cost of this quote unquote AFE. And it really goes down to the mindset. If what we do is considered a commodity, then it's okay to measure it on the cost, right? You're just replacing one thing with another. But when you have the mindset, or as in our case, the whole reason our company exists is to improve the profitability of our customers. I never want to be a commodity. I never want to provide a commodity solution. There's so many other people out there in the world that will do that. Our goal, our focus is to increase their profitability, which means we've got to reduce their cost per barrel of oil equivalent in how much they're spending on the return of hydrocarbon that they're getting back from the well. And guess what? We do that in spades. We do it not only from the perspective of when you're looking at the investment cost, the capital cost, the AFE cost of a well, but then secondarily, over the life of the well, we reduce by up to 80 or 90% the lease operating expense tied to processing greenhouse gases, which would be H2S and CO2, because we mitigate those upwards of 90% per well. And so, you know, that's the problem with it. But part of it is I'm going to take responsibility. I've been a poor communicator of this value, and I'm still having to learn how to communicate it at every level within an organization, because it's not the completions team, it's not their fault that they're focused on their AFE. That's been their direction. That's what the boundaries that they have set on where they're to spend their money, right? Our job is to make sure that at every level there's a congruent understanding of the value for the investment they make when they utilize Refine's process, the Pathfinder process.
So we got a little bit of bandwidth issue, just a little bit. So bear with us, team. You're coming through loud and clear. You're just a little fuzzy on the visuals, but the when you say AFE, what does that mean to me?
It means authorization for expenditure. So companies, when they're going to drill and complete a well, they put a budget together, and their board or their executive team um, gives the engineering, the drilling completion team a budget to expend this much money on bringing a well into life.
Okay. And so when they're considering the refined Pathfinder process, that's you have to look at it a little bit different.
What you do, and here's the really cool thing, used to, our process was between $50,000 and $70,000 more per well equivalent, but we've become so much more refined in what the well needs. We're able now to deliver this highly technical geology specific solution for the same price of comparable chemistries that would be going into the wellbore. We just know why we use what we use and how much we use. The other companies out there, they have to guess at it. They don't have a method to measure and then to mitigate the production of CO2 and H2S, and we do. Only company in the world that has that. And the result of being able to mitigate, suppress, is your wells over the life of the well produce 40% more. And this is measured over a 36-month period, the first 36 months of the well, hands down every time. And that's exciting.
So we have here. I'm putting it up now. It says breaking down the real world math. Go over this for us, would you?
Well, so again, we had talked about that AFE, and historically, to use our process, it was going to cost, quote unquote, $75,000 more to provide a well that's going to keep its promise. And over 36 months, the wells that do not use our process produce $4.5 million less than our wells do in that same time frame. So that's how you lose it. I'm not going to invest the 75,000, which is going to result in me losing $4.5 million over 36 months.
So I was just thinking about it. If I was to take $75,000 and invest it and then get a return, or you have 4.5 million to show over after 3 years, what's my percentage of rate of return?
Your IRR is through the roof. Well, it's ultimately greater than 40%, because the impact on that is it's a compounded impact.
I'm just sitting there thinking about it because, Bitcoin, for example, is over the past 10 years has returned, I think, on average 30%. It's the hurdle rate basically of any
Mhm.
investment. And then when when you put it here, I'm going, this is outperforming Bitcoin at, at least in that 3 year um, rate of return. That's crazy.
Well, and one of the key things to understand, that's at $60 oil, is what this calculation is. And, the impact really ultimately is more important to the operator in a suppressed pricing environment because you're getting more resource source from one investment. So if you think about this, every 2.5 wells a company drills, they get one for free.
Now, does this take into consideration the savings of the
And
deterioration on the equipment?
that does not. And the lease operating expense. This is just purely on the revenue side, not the savings on the expense side. It's compounded. And now that we're having the carbon reduction space, that we're going to be providing the opportunities for operators to get carbon credits, tax credits, and designation for their asset as a low carbon producing asset and glean additional revenue from that. Again, that's just the tip of the iceberg. That's the easiest of all the financial decisions to make, the easiest to measure, but the other ones create a compounding impact that's going to last for 20 years.
I saw something in the news about they found another oil field in the Permian Basin area. Did you see that?
I have not. No.
It's like there's so
Is
much
it, it,
oil.
it may, there may be another producing bench that they're talking about.
Mhm.
And there's, what we understand today, there's about 11 different stratifications, you know, um, and could there be another one within that? Absolutely.
Wow. So when the light bulb goes off, I mean, obviously this is an expectation of the outcome of producing a healthy well the proper way that didn't exist before your patented process came along. When the light bulb goes on with someone that's considering the Pathfinder process of these uptakes or pickups or whatever you want to call them, as far as yeah, what do you see on their face when the light bulb goes on?
Well, first and foremost, let's be quite fair. There's been a lot of promises, and we've talked about this before. So the first is, okay, I'm gonna give you trust up front. It's intuitive, it makes sense. Having the patience to measure it longer than 100 days, that's one of the challenges, because this is not something that you get your um, immediate satisfaction or within the same time frame that historically judgments have been made on whether a process was successful. But that's the beauty behind the statistics that we have on thousands, a couple of thousands of wells now that we have in comparison, that every time we get to see um, at about 9 months, our wells have pulled even. And over this 36-month time frame, which is what you just showed, that $4.5 million difference, that is a true 10 well comparison on average that we have. And so it's um, it's not a quote unquote get rich scheme. It's about a sustainability. It's about making something that lasts a long time. And it's funny. I had a washing machine. The first one was given to me by my mom and dad. That thing just gave up the ghost about 8 years ago. It was almost 50 years old. And then this thing called engineered obsolescence came in, and everybody now expects things not to last.
Mhm.
Well, that's to some degree what happens with wells. We become accustomed of them not lasting near as long. not providing the resource. And we don't believe in the mindset of obsolescence. We believe in the mindset of longevity.
Yeah, I was thinking we're moving from this scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset. I'm noticing that theme in with AI, and all you're doing here, Lloyd, is you're bringing a legitimate business process into downhole. Basically, what used to be this invisible place that you just guess. Hopefully, we put the right product downhole, and we'll get what we get. And here you are, you're bringing a predictive process based on a big sampling of data. You don't only have the patent, but you got the numbers behind it to back it up.
That's right.
Exciting.
It is really exciting, and it's fun to be able to have the conversations that we have here, but also to be able to go in and make a promise. That's the one thing. I met with an operator last week, and I'm so confident, and I'm not going to put the reputation of myself and our team out, but we guarantee you follow this process, your well's going to be better. Day in, day out, over time, this is going to be a benefit. And who in the world can guarantee that?
Right. And who has a patent behind that?
And not just a patent on the chemistry, it's a process patent. And again, I know we belabor this subject, but the fact of the matter is the process is what brings the value, not a specific chemistry. The chemistry that we care about is what is the mineralogy of your rock, and it tells us, and through our 242 different mechanisms that we measure in ratios of what is going to happen to the geology and how do we suppress the bad things while allowing the mobility of oil and gas into our wellbore. That's it.
That's it. You get more oil, more carbon capture. You got equipment that lasts longer. And then you get to take advantage of whatever carbon credits or carbon abatement that.
There you go. You got the word right. Yeah, because we're not capturing anything. We're leaving it in situ, right? We're abating it. And I had a conversation today. What does that mean? What does abatement mean? And it's just like if you've ever had to go unfortunately do any kind of asbestos abatement. One of the things, you can abate it in place, and what that means is you seal it off and you don't allow it to enter the airspace, right? Well, that's what we do through our process is we mitigate the dissolution of CO2 from the geology, and we leave it in place. We abate it so it never is produced over the life of the well. And, that's exciting. And you and I have had the conversation, right? Making sure we understand how to communicate this effectively. And we have a phenomenal abatement process.
All right. Well, this is, we're going to wrap this up a little bit earlier than normal because we've got a little bandwidth problem, but I think it's been pithy and powerful. Let's say someone's been listening to you, Lloyd, and they want to know what this looks like in their situation. What's the best way to go about this?
Well, they can reach out via email, or first and foremost on this platform at Refined, see Lloyd B, or my email address, lloyd.brown@refinedcompletions.com, or go to our soon-to-be newly refreshed website that is going to communicate the things we talk about here, refinedcompletions.com.
All right. It's clear. It's on the way. It's patented. And there's a promise behind it. So connect with Lloyd, and we'll see everyone on the next episode of Why Wells Fail. And that's a wrap.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you, Lloyd.